Yo, what's good, YouTube? This is Jay from Ncaa, and we are finally here at the recruiting episode. And just before hopping into this episode, I just want to talk about some of the positions and some of the type of guys we're going to look to go after. And it's simple. It's just athletes. I mean, if it wasn't for these transfers, we wouldn't have many athletes. If I just sort by speed here, you can see Tyron Summers is there. Sean Johnson was one of the guys we recruited last year. He's getting redshirted, only 51 overall. He's got a little bit to develop, but looking at Burnett, I mean, a lot of these guys, Great is up here. I mean, we just need some athleticism. We don't really have athleticism with the ball. So on offense, we have Tyron Summers, but we don't have any other guys that really get on the field that have like amazing athleticism. We have some guys that are quick with the ball, like Angel Gonzalez is a perfect example. This guy's pretty quick with the ball. He can make things happen with the ball in his hands. But I just want to go after some athletes, and one position I do want to go after is middle linebacker. We're kind of thin here, and Ryan Marshall is a senior. He's graduating. That's going to be a huge loss at 79 awareness. He's our smartest linebacker right now. And then we got to be thinking about the future at cornerback. We have two starting juniors right now with Great and Norman. After that, we don't really know what our future is at corner. We're going to probably have some position battles going forward. And then at the safety position, we have to start thinking about Cedric Granger. He's a junior. He's going into his senior season next year. We got to think about replacing him eventually. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's just get into it. So looking at our pipeline states, we do have Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and we're in jeopardy of losing Georgia. So we don't want to lose them, so we are going to recruit a little bit in Georgia. But we're going to start out by looking at our prospect map. And in the southeastern part of the United States, that's where most of our meat and potatoes are. And specifically because obviously we're in South Carolina, so we want to recruit the guys close to home. We get that extra recruiting bonus with the proximity to home. But we did decide to go after a couple guys on the West Coast, one in Washington, one in California. But first, we start out in the great state of Alabama. Let's check out our first recruits here. So on our recruiting trip to Alabama, we decided to stop and look at one more guy in Alabama, and this guy is one of the great middle linebackers in the state. Pretty underrated, but let's check out John Logan. Then we moved our recruiting trip to Texas to check out two really good athletes that we had our eye on their junior season, and we decided to see how they look in their senior season, and luckily we stumbled upon Lance Folks. Check out this record-breaking game. Then we went to check out another guy, another athlete. These guys are all athletes that plays quarterback. He's 6'2", 176 pounds, a little bit skinny, but that's the reason why he's kind of underrated. He's a little small, but let's just check him out. Mike Brown. So we decided to move to the state of Florida and California to check out the best athletes. We know they have the best recruiting classes every year. And one guy we added to our board last season, he was a junior, he was a safety. I liked him a little bit, but he kind of had a bad game when we went to go scout him last season, so we kind of scratched him off of our board. I didn't really like his effort, but I mean, man, has he turned it around in his senior year. Let's check out Eric Brown. So finally looking at our recruiting board here, and this is going to be the hardest recruiting year yet because specifically, remember, we started going after 1-stars before, but nobody really went after 1-star, so we had no competition. But this time around, we're going after 3-stars, 2-stars, and the highest ranked guy we're going to actually go after, at least the highest position ranked, is 700. So we're not going to recruit anybody greater than 700 on the all prospect board. So let's first start out with John Logan, the guy that we think is pretty underrated, but he's got 76 speed, 89 acceleration. He's got pretty good tackling and instincts with 72 play recognition. That's pretty good as a freshman. And then he can also rush the passer a little bit. He's got some pass rushing moves and some good block shedding. So he's going to get after the ball pretty well. I think he's an all-around guy right now as a freshman. I don't think he has too many weaknesses except his speed, and he maybe have to work on his agility and strength a little bit. But right now, I do like his look. He's going to be at top of our board to start this year. Then we move on to Lionel Allen. And Lionel Allen, he's a speed guy. 95 acceleration, going to get after the ball with 85 speed at linebacker. That's pretty good. One thing he does have to work on is his finesse moves. It's pretty low. We haven't unlocked all of his ratings, but it looks like he's a good tackler. He might have good instincts with that 76 play recognition. I like that, but we are kind of behind on him right now to start the season, behind Troy, behind 460 points. So we'll see how that goes. So moving on to some other guys. And one thing that I'm going to do with renaming these guys, I asked you guys if I'm going to rename some of them, if you want me to rename some of them. And I came up with a solution that those 5 guys that I highlighted in those highlight tapes, those guys will stay the same. They won't be renamed, but everybody else will. So everybody else, like this guy, CJ Scott, he's a solid outside linebacker, 75 play recognition. At 81 speed, we're at 3rd place right now, but I imagine we're going to move up. He's a pretty good outside linebacker. Then we move on to Eric Brown, one of the guys we will not rename, but he's just a physical specimen. 6'1", 219. He's a pretty good player. Look at his hit power and tackling. 84 tackling, 76 hit power. That's pretty good out of the gate. He does have to work on his coverage skills a little bit, but you see he actually did start 1 year in high school at receiver, but he actually had some ball carrying skills. He had 84 trucking, 79 ball carrier vision, 80 carrying, so he can carry the ball a little bit. What hurts him is that speed, only at 80, so that's why he plays defense. So Ross Outlaw is the next guy. He's an athlete, 6'2", 241 pounds. He's pretty good. We're in second place for him, but if you look at him, he's an athlete. We're getting after these athletes, gonna recruit heavily in athletes. And you see his tackling is pretty high. That's pretty good for a freshman. I like that. His finesse moves is good. So I'm thinking this guy is looking like a D end or a defensive tackle. I'm not really sure. And like I said, the addition of Kenneth Ruff has changed our defense. So recruiting defensive linemen that can pretty much do everything is kind of the guy we're going to go after as far as defensive line prospects go. So moving on to Mike Brown, 6'2", 176. He's probably our most explosive guy we have on our board. He's at 90 speed. He can throw the ball as well. Throw power at a B. Throw accuracy at a 70. But I just don't know about him. I mean, if you look at him and Eric Brown, the two Browns here, they're in the mid 60s to low 60s. I don't know what he's going to be, though. And he is kind of he's a question mark. He can throw the ball, but I just don't know how well. He has 70 throw accuracy. I don't know what the throw power is going to be. And if he does make our squad and he does end up committing to our school, there's a log jam at quarterback. So I don't know his future at quarterback. He does have the athleticism, so we'll have to just wait and see on him. Then we're looking at offensive lineman Chris Novak from South Carolina. We need to get these South Carolina recruits. He's okay. I don't know how good he's going to be, but at 65 overall as a freshman, I think that's pretty good. Then we move to Lance Folks, one of the guys that's not getting renamed, but one of our star recruits here. He's at number 8 on our board, and the reason is because we have bigger needs, but I do want him bad because he's pretty good. I can't lie, and he plays both sides of the ball, which makes him a pretty good asset to have on your team. He has good catching, but you see his route running is pretty low, 52, 56 catching traffic. That's the one thing that does alarm me on the offensive side, so I'm thinking he might be a safety of some sort. At 6'3", 223, I think he's got a lot of potential with that size. So moving over to defensive tackle, Brad Sanders from Virginia. One of the guys that can get renamed. He's 6'3", he's got good size, he's got decent strength. I do want to get that strength up a little bit. At 72 strength, I want to see that get up, but we'll see how he goes. So looking at a guy that I actually didn't highlight in the highlight tapes, but one of my favorite recruits at number 10, Marcus Washington. You see these ratings. I mean, he's pretty good. I think he's going to be a pass rusher. So he's got 74 finesse moves. But honestly, if you redshirt him one more year, he might be at 80 finesse moves. That's a pretty good start getting in as a redshirt freshman. So I do want to see that improve a little bit. But I do like his athleticism, 78 speed, 79 acceleration. That's pretty good for a defensive end. So that's where I think he's going to play. But I guess we'll have to wait and find out. So then we move back to offensive line. Tim Ziegler, we do need some offensive line help because we don't know what our future there is going to be. But we have a couple of guys that do have a chance to compete pretty soon. I mean, honestly, because our offensive line, we do have some seniors on our squad. We do have some juniors as well that are getting ready to depart. So we'll have to address that pretty soon. So then we move on to the offensive side of the ball, starting with Byron Pruitt. And we're actually in the lead for him. And he's okay. I mean, he's got 75 catching. I think that's pretty good as a freshman, but he does have to work on his route running at 68. I do want him to get his catching traffic up. It says it's a D. I haven't unlocked it yet, but we'll see how good he is. He starts out in the mid 60s overall. And then we move over to tight end, one of the positions that we did want to recruit. Richie Richards, 70 speed. That's kind of low, but I think he has potential to be good. I think he's all right. He's got decent strength. He can, looks like he might be able to block some too, so that's pretty valuable, especially since we like to run the ball up the middle between the tackles, and we're gonna need that blocking tight end. So moving over to kicker, we do need a kicker because our kicker has 0 range at this point, Preston Lang, and I think that this guy Jason Rhodes does have a lot of potential. At 81 overall, he'd probably be our best rated guy on our team right now as a freshman kicker, so we do want to keep our eyes on him. Then we move on to Drew Thompson, and the reason why I have him on board, he is only 59 overall. You see that, but I think he has some athleticism that we can use. I think we can maybe use him as kind of like the Angel Gonzalez type of role. I think that he might excel there, but he does need to redshirt a year, so we'll see how it goes for him. Tony Wilson is an interesting guy. I unlocked his ratings a little bit, and it was kind of disappointing a little bit. But what drew me to this guy is that he's got 72 power moves. We don't have a lot of guys with high power moves, so I'm expecting his overall to go above 59. We'll see though going forward. Another guy from South Carolina. Then we move on to a punter, Aaron Anderson, the number 2 punter in the nation from North Carolina, but we're behind 2,000 from him, so I don't really know if we're going to get him at all. Then we move on to some guys that we probably don't have a chance at. TJ Berry, I'm actually just going to remove him from the board. We're behind 1,600 for him. Robert Logan, we're behind 3,000 for him. And then Will White, we did just add him to the board. He's an interesting guy, and the reason is because not a lot of people are going after him. He's got good size, 6'2", 220. I do want to see if he does get better in any of these categories. If he doesn't, I might just remove him because, I mean, at D catching, I don't know exactly what his speed is going to be at B speed, though. I don't know how his future on the team is going to look. But then we get to a guy that we added late, Caleb Smith, and he's interesting. 74 route running is pretty high for a freshman, especially since I'm not going after anybody ranked at the 300 guy or above. And 118 wide receiver, he's a speed guy. So I'm thinking that speed at B might jump up to an A. You never know. At low strength, 242. I just want to see what he's going to be. And you never know. He might just end up being a special teams player. But at 66 catching, he's going to have to get redshirted for sure. But that route running at 74 is what's keeping me there. I want to see what the rest of his ratings are going to be. So this is an interesting class. I imagine I'm going to adjust the board probably once during the year. I don't want to overpower it and just cheat and just go after guys that the computer isn't going after. I don't think that's really realistic because you never know in real life when you're recruiting who's going after who. It's kind of kept a secret. So I want to keep this realistic, but let me know what you guys think of this board so far. We're going to adjust it, like I said, probably one more time, probably around week 8 of the season to make it so that, you know, we add some guys halfway through the season. So we'll see. So hit subscribe, hit that like button, and remember, I'm going to have the episode to submit who you guys want to be as recruits later in the year, and part of those guys will be renamed to some of these guys that we do get as commits, but except those first 5 guys that I did highlight. So you do want to stay tuned for the rest of the season because this season, it's looking like a different one. I mean, with this defense, we look like a totally different team. So stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.